But it was really Joe Marshall's ministry in this place that opened the doors for women in ministry here at John Knox. And you made it possible for Stacy and myself to be called here. And for that, we are so grateful for you and your ministry and your life. Thank you. And Jo has spent a lot of her ministry doing what's called interim or transitional work. So you're going to appreciate this story. The congregation called its first female pastor. Turns out not everyone was thrilled with the idea. And particularly these two older gentlemen in the congregation, they were really perplexed because, you see, they had this tradition of an annual fishing trip with the preacher. Now what were they supposed to do? They really didn't want to invite her to go on fishing with them, but they didn't want to be rude either. What were they supposed to do? They say, well, I guess we'll ask her and hope she doesn't like to fish. Well, unfortunately for them, she loved to fish. She grew up fishing. She was a very good fisher. So she said, sure, let's go. So now what do? So the day of the trip arrives, and they're getting all their supplies onto the boat. And they just set out from the dock, and they haven't gone far, maybe 50 yards, and we left the bait bucket back on the dock. And so the new preacher steps up and says, no problem, I'll get it. She steps out of the boat and walks across the water back to the dock to get the bait bucket. And one of the old guys turns to the other and says, see, I told you this wasn't a good idea. She doesn't even know how to swim. Regardless of how you feel about transitions in ministry, or women in ministry, or fishing for that matter, one thing I think we can all agree on is walking on water is pretty cool, right? It's something special. And that's why this story in particular has been a favorite of Christians throughout the centuries. It has inspired Christians and non-Christians alike. Even Rembrandt, one of his most famous, we got that? One of Rembrandt's most famous paintings. There it is. One of Rembrandt's most famous paintings is Jesus walking on the water to still the storm on the Sea of Galilee. And this has inspired and confused and comforted and challenged people throughout the ages. But my fear is that it has done so often for the wrong reasons. We haven't learned this story as well as we think we've learned the story. So stay with me. Let's put it in context. When Matthew is writing his gospel, and he's relying upon a lot of the material that Mark has already put together in his gospel. When Matthew is writing his gospel, we're talking a couple generations, like 50, 60 years after the death and resurrection of Jesus. And it's a tough time for the church. It's a tough time to be a Christian. We all know about the persecutions that were going on, the stories of the Christians being fed to the lions in Rome and all that. And while those things did take place, more often than not, the persecution was more subtle. It was more an ostracism, a marginalizing of the Christians. People didn't trust the Christians. And this new cult thing where they're eating and drinking the blood and body of their founder, I mean, what is that all about? And Christians weren't to be trusted. And so more often than not, what would happen is people found out you were a Christian, they would stop doing business with you. They would stop shopping in your market. You would no longer be invited to important meetings of the community. Your children would not be invited to have play dates with other children. You would suddenly not be invited to Bridge Club anymore. You were being marginalized and pushed aside and being discounted because of your faith. And on top of that, the early church believed that Jesus' return was going to be any minute now. He'll be right back. Stay tuned. And yet, it had been 50 to 60 years, and there's no sign of Jesus. Here they are struggling to keep it all together. Jesus is nowhere to be seen. And what happens? People start giving up. People quit the church. They give up the faith. They go back to their old life. And numbers are dwindling. Now, Matthew writes this gospel as a way of providing encouragement and a challenge to those Christians. And this story in particular became very meaningful for the early church. This story takes place in Matthew's gospel just after John the Baptist is beheaded. And Jesus feeds the 5,000. One of the lows and highs of Jesus' life and ministry. It was a very confusing and unsettled time for the disciples and for those who were following Jesus. They didn't quite know what to make of this guy. Was he a prophet? Or was he a blasphemer? Was he the new king? Or was he treasonous? There were those in the crowd who were ready that day to crown him. And there were those that day in the crowd who were ready to crown him. They didn't know what to make of this man. And so in the midst of this confusion, in the midst of this unsettlement, Jesus calls a timeout. And he says, okay guys, I want you to get in the boat, take it out, I'll meet you across the lake. I'm going up the mountain to pray. Which we know is a very Jesus-like thing to do. The Gospels tell us that Jesus often went away to a lonely place, often up a hillside or mountain, to have time in communion with his Father. And so Jesus goes off and does his thing. The guys get in the boat, they're headed out to sea, and so far everything's cool, right? Until somewhere around the middle of the night, a storm rolls in. Now, I know some of you have been out on the Lake of the Ozarks when a storm has rolled in. And if you're out on the boat when a storm rolls in, it is not a pleasant thing. Can you imagine being in the middle of the night when the storm rolls in? Can you imagine not having a nice boat like McCuddy's, but I mean being in just like a dugout kind of boat? I mean, we're talking a little rudimentary boat. The boats they had back then, remember, they weren't well built, and if you fell overboard, you drowned. No one knew how to swim back then. Parents did not take their children to the YMCA for swim lessons. Everybody drowned.